So today we will be looking at the CSEC General Mathematics Paper 1 for January 2024. My name is Mr. Conloyd Gums. I hope that this helps you as we go through these questions. Stay ready, stay locked in, beast mode. Remember, this ain't no play man thing. This is serious business. So this says the number 3.14063 written correct to 3 decimal places is, so we need to identify the number of decimal places that we need. So this was our first one. So that's our first one. This here is our second one. And the one that we are interested in, the third one. So I knew this because we are on the right side of the decimal point. This here is a decimal point. So the 3 decimal places on the right, we have 1, 2, 3. This is our third one. Now we need to figure out if we should keep this or raise this. In order to raise this, we have to see if this digit here is equal to or more than 5. Once it is equal to or more than 5, we have to change this 0 to a 1. If it was not equal to or more than 5, meaning it was less than that, we would have kept the answer as 3.140. However, because this is more than or equal to 5, since it's 6, this 0 has to turn to a 1. Therefore, our answer is this. So the question asks, what percentage of 40 is 8? So we want to know what percentage of 40 is the number 8. So therefore, what proportion 8 represents of 40 in terms of percentages. So in order to do that, we need to say 8 over 40 and we multiply that by 100. So now that we have to multiply that by 100, we can put 100 over 1. Anything written as a fraction has to be itself over 1. So as you can see here, we have some numbers that could go into both of these. So for instance, 10 can go into 40 4 times. So I cross out that 0, so I'm left with 4. 10 could go into 100 10 times. So I'm left with 10 here. Now the trick with me doing that was ensuring that whatever I did to the top, I did to the bottom. Now, do you see any number that can go into any number at the top? You could say that 4 can go in itself once and 4 could go into 8 twice. Now there's nothing else that we can use because anything divided by 1 will give us back itself, so there's no point. So we can multiply across now. So 2 multiplied by 10, which gives us 20, then 1 times 1 is 1. Whenever we're doing fractions and we multiply straight across. Okay, we always multiply straight across. So therefore, 20 over 1 is the same as 20%. Therefore, our answer is 20%. So with this one, we want it in standard notation. So standard notation, we usually want a number to the left of the decimal point, but it has to be 1 digit. And this digit has to be a non-zero digit. Okay, so 1 digit that is non-zero. It's a non-zero digit. In other words, it's not 0. So if you look at this, if we want to have 1 digit to the left with this number, we would have to move this decimal point 2 times. So then we will end up with 2.0806. Now we have to multiply that to account for the moves we made. So that's always going to be 10. In this case, it will be to the power of 2. Now if you look at this, why I say 10 to the power of 2, 10 to the power of 2 is the same as 10 times 10, which is 100. So if we multiply this by 100, this number here, by 100, we'll get this back. So just to draw a little reference, just imagine we had the number 2 alone and we multiply that by 100, it's 200. So it makes sense that this here is our answer. Therefore, this is the answer right here. Now if you look at our other options, we had 20.806, which had 2 digits to the left. So we can't have that. Now this one had 1 digit, but guess what it was? It was a 0. So we can't have a 0. It must be something that is non-zero. Now this here was our other option, but because it says -2, that means we actually would have had to go this way and it would have really and truly been 0.020806, which is not this. So this is our answer here. This here is a really nice question. It says, what is the least number of apples that can be shared equally among either 6, 10, or 15 children? So it has to be shared equally either with 6 children, 10 children, or 15 children. This is another way of saying what is the LCM of 6, 10, and 15. So what do we mean by LCM? Well, multiples of each of these numbers, and not just any multiple, the lowest common multiple. So LCM, the lowest common multiple. So what that means is they're going to be multiples that are common, but we want the lowest one. So let's start with this big number here, 15. So the first multiple of 15 is 15. Then we'll have 30, then 45, then 60. So this one here we would have the first multiple being 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Now for 6, the first one is 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, and so forth, right? Now, if you notice here, we do have a common number. Can you see it? What's a common multiple that we have? The lowest common multiple would be 30. We have 60 here and 60 here. If we were to continue this, we would have ended up with 48, 54, then 60. But although 60 is common, it is not the lowest. So the lowest number here would be 30. The lowest common multiple is 30. So just for y'all visual learners out there, so let's say we have 6, 10, and 15. We need to share between 6 children, 10 children, or 15 children. So we want to share this here among 6 children. So I have 24 apples here. So that's the first number that we're looking at, 24 apples. Now, in order to share this among 6 children, I need to split it in 4 because 24 divided by 6 is 4. So 1, 2, so each child would get this, 3, this child number 3, the 4th child, the 5th child, and the 6th child. So as you can see, I split this evenly among 6 people. Now, say I wanted to split this with 10 children, I would have to say 24 divided by 10. Now, if I do 24 divided by 10, I'm going to get 2.4. So I cannot share this equally. Remember, that's a key word here, equally. Now, if I try with 24 and 15, same thing. I'm not going to get equal numbers again. 24 divided by 15 would give me 1, and I would have a remainder of 9. So that is not good. If we had to share with the 10 children, each of those children would get 2 apples. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. See? So all 10 children have 2 apples so far. So now the problem is I have to split 4 apples among these 10 children. It's not going to happen because we want it to be done equally. Likewise, for 15, if we give each child an apple, so each child gets an apple, we still have a problem because we have 9 apples to share among 15 people still, which is not going to work. So in this case now with 30 apples, so we have 30 apples. So if I was to say 30 divided by 6, that would give me 5. So each person will get 5 apples. So we have 1 child, child number 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the 6th child. So everyone has the same number of apples. Now the same thing with 10 children. So if we have 10 children, we would have to say 30 divided by 10, which is 3. So each child will get 3 apples. So 3, 3. So as you can see, they're being shared equally. As you can see, child 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 children each get 3 apples. Now among 15 children, we will say 30 divided by 15. So that's 2. So each person is going to get 2 apples from the 15 people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people. So this is the visual representation of what this question was trying to ask in case you were interested. So it says if 3/5 is shared in the ratio 2:5, the larger share is, so which one is the larger share first of all? This one. Now in order to work out the larger share, we need to figure out what this share in total would be. So we are saying it's 2 and 5. That's a ratio. So it has to be 2 plus 5, which is equal to 7. Now if I'm looking for the larger share, that means I have to say 5 over 7 multiplied by how much I'm sharing, which is 350. Now remember what we did for 100 earlier? Now anything as a fraction, we put it over 1. So then we have 5 over 7 times 350 over 1. So 7 could go into itself once, and 7 can go into 350 50 times. All I need to do is say 7 into 35 goes 5 times, and we'll have this 0 here. So it's going to be 50 times. Now I can say 5 times 50, which is equal to, so we have 50 here times 5. 5 times 0, 0. 5 times 5, 25. So the larger share is 250. So the total number of students in a class would be 40. So we have 40 students in a class. Now the girls make up 60%. So the girls would be 60% of this 40. So it'd be 40 over 1 times 60 over 100. Now 10 could go into 100 10 times, so we're left with 10 here. We have to do the same for the top. So 60 divided by 10 is 6. Now as you can see here, we still have 10 at the bottom. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. And 10 into 40 goes 4 times. So we are left with 4 times 6, which would be equal to 24 over 1, which is just 24. So we just figured out how many girls we have in the class. We have 24 girls in the class. Now the next thing we need to do is figure out 25% of these girls wear glasses. How many many girls in the class wear glasses? So girls that wear glasses, some of you may notice you can just divide 24 by 4, but in case you did not notice, we would say 24 over 1 times the percentage, which is 25 over 100. So 25 can go in itself once, and 25 can go into 100 4 times. Now 4 could also go into 24, so 4 into 7 goes once, 4 into 24 goes 6 times. So we'll end up with 6 times 1 is 6 over 1. So we have 6 girls who wear glasses. That's our answer. So with this question here, they're saying that the universal set U has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the universal set in this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it says that H has 3, 4, 6. So let's say this is H. Inside of here should be 3, a 4, and a 6. So 3, 4, 6, we already accounted for those. What we have to account for would be the 1, 2, and the 5. So the 1 is here, 2 is here, and the 5 is here. Why did I put them here? They're in the universal set, which is the overall set, but they are not inside of H. So the question says H complement. This apostrophe means H complement. In other words, what is outside of H? What is outside of H? So based on this, you can see that 1 is outside, 2 and 5. So therefore, our answer here is this. Those are the only digits that's outside of this circle here. Which of the following statements describes a set of integers from -3 to 6? So this fancy stuff here, that's all that it means, that x represents integers. It's an element of the set of integers. So in that sense, we're talking about negative, positive values, right? So if you look at this now, we say -3. When you read from left to right, this is -3 is more than x. So the first thing we need to do, let's think about all the integers from -3 to 6. So that would be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you look at this here now, it says that we have -3. When you're reading from left to right, it says more than x. But the way that we should read it is always from the center, either go left or go right. So going right, this is saying that x is more than 6. So what value do you know that is more than 6? Numbers like 7, 8, 9, and so forth. So this can't be right. But if you're reading left to right, it says x is less than -3. And when you think of numbers less than -3, we talk about -4, -5, and so forth. All the numbers that are not here. So this can't work. Now this has the same application. The only difference is that this time, if we use the same concept, it says x is more than or equal to 6. So yes, this statement includes 6, but look what it includes. It includes numbers higher than 6, and we don't want numbers higher than 6. We also have a situation where reading from right to left now, it says x is less than or equal to -3. So that means it does include a -3, but we also have numbers that are less than that. So this can't work either. Now for this one, it says that x is less than or equal to 6. As you can see here, we have 6 here, and then these are numbers that are less than 6. But it has a cap on it, which says here, reading from right to left, it says x is more than or equal to -3. So it goes from -3 up, just like how this went from 6 down. So this covers a whole section here from -3 straight to 6. So therefore, I know that this is my answer. Now the reason I wouldn't have used this is because it just says x is less than 6, which does not include a 6. And we need to include a 6. Likewise, it says x is more than -3, which does not include a -3. If I'm saying it's more than -3, I cannot include it. That's why we have to use this that has an equal part to include everything here. So this one says if x and y are two finite sets such that nx is equal to 9, ny is equal to 10, and nx union y is equal to 15, then nx intersection y is, what does basically mean? This says the number of elements in x. This means the number of elements in y. This means the number of elements in x union y. There's actually a formula for this that goes like this. So if I was to replace all these values, this here is 15. So 15 is equal to nx, which is 9. So 9 plus ny, which is 10, minus some number. So 9 plus 10 minus something gives me 15. So 15 is equal to 9 plus 10, which is 19. 19 take away what gives me 15? 4. So therefore, I know that 4 is the answer. Now just to visualize this, we can sketch it now so you can see what it looks like. So this is X, this is Y. So we are saying that there are 4 items in the center. Now, remember the circle X. How many things are in the circle X? So I'll just change the color of the circle so you can see the difference. So X has 9 items. So far we have 4 inside. So we put 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And how much do we have in Y? We have 10. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you check this out, inside X alone, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is this. Okay, but notice we counted these already. However, when it comes to Y, we have to count them again because they are in Y. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is what we have here. Now, overall, if we count this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, which is this. Now, how can we have 9 and then have 10 but still have 15? That is because we counted those in the center twice. That is why this formula has to have the subtraction of the intersection. So just in case you wanted to see and understand what this was about, this is why this formula came about. And this is a visual representation of what is going on here. So for this particular question, it says the Venn diagram X. In the Venn diagram, X represents the set of factors of 12. So let's try to list the factors of 12. So the factors of 12 numbers that can go into 12 equally would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. Now for Y, it says Y represents the set of factors of 9. So that's Y equal 1, 3, 9. These are all the numbers that can go into 9 equally without a remainder. Now it says the shaded region represents the set of all factors of. So what this shaded region represents would be the numbers that are common between the two. So if I'm looking at these, the numbers that are common would be 1 and 3. So 1 and 3 would go in the center. So I put the other numbers just so you could see what it would have been. Now, it's asking us the shaded region represents the set of all factors of. So which number has factors 1 and 3? There's only one number that has factors 1 and 3 alone, and that would be the number 3 itself. So that's the answer to this question. So they say here, which of the following pairs of sets is an example of disjoint sets? So when we're talking about disjoint sets, we're talking about sets that do not have any common elements. So in this sense, they would be separated or disjointed. They're not intersecting. So when you look at these, whole numbers can also be rational numbers. We have multiple of 5, multiples of 10. So multiples of 5 would be like 5, 10, 15, 20, which includes multiples of 10, which would be like 10 and 20. The same thing applies for multiples of 2. So multiples of 2 could be 2, 4, 6, 8, and so forth. But multiples of 3 would be 3, 6. So both of them have 6. So that can't work. But the last one, even numbers, odd numbers. There are no even numbers that are considered to be odd numbers, okay, because they're going to miss each other every single time. Okay, so these here, just have drawn a random reference. As you can see, they don't share anything in common. So therefore, the answer has to be this. So it says the 30 students in teacher May's class have either a dog or a cat or none of the two. All the students who have a cat also have a dog. If n represents the number of cats we're talking about with 12 and the number of students that have dogs, which is 16, which of the following Venn diagrams correctly represents this information? So the thing is now, right, if you have a cat, you also have a dog. But based on this, if 12 people have cats, which means that out of these who have dogs, 12 of them also have the cats. So 12 of these people who have cats are included in those who have dogs. But there are extra number of dogs. So that means that 16 take away 12, it represents 4 people or 4 students who only have a dog. So therefore, when I look at this here now, I'm seeing that we have a circle for the cats, which would be 12 people, which is also inside of those who have dogs. So this includes those who have dogs. But there are 4 people on the side who have dogs only. Now the question is, where did this 14 come from? Now, if we have 12 plus 4, which would be the 16, remember we said that we had 30 students altogether. So 30 take away 16 gives us 14. So that represents a 14 there. So that's how we got that. So this here represents our answer. Excluding sales tax, how much will be saved when a video which costs $12 is sold at a 20% discount? I guess people still selling videos, huh? Alright, so 12 over 1 times 20%, which is 20 over 100. So 20 can go in itself once, and 20 can go into 100 5 times. So then we'll be left with, now if I was to work this out, 12 divided by 5 would give me 2. And then the remainder I'll have is 2 over 5. Now the only thing here that has 2 would be this one here. So I don't even need to work out 2 over 5, which is basically 0.4. So this is 2.4. So I know that the discount is $2.40. So this would be the amount that would be saved. Alright, so this says EC250 is equivalent to $1. So I have $1 here and 250. This here is $2.50. If you know EC money, this is what the coins look like for 250. Now we need to figure out how much 20 EC would be in US. So let's do a mathematical approach first. So we're saying that $1 is equal to 250 EC. So we don't know how much US we have right now, but we want to figure out how much is 20 EC. Now when we're going from here to here, when we're converting from US to EC, we multiply, but when we're going from EC to US, we divide. Therefore, we have to say 20 divided by $2.50. So how many times can 250 go into $20? So just to keep it a little basic, we say 250 plus 250 is equal to what? $5. If I was to do that again, 250 plus 250, that's another 5. So together we have how much? $1, another $, another $, another $. So together I have $4, which gives me together 10 EC. So therefore, if we have double that, to get 20 EC, we have to double this 4 US, and that would give us 8 US. So together, these groups, when we add these, would give you 20 EC, and then we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 US. So the answer would be this. So this 20 EC is worth 8 US. The cash price of a television set is $350. So this here costs $350. Now it can be bought on hire purchase, right? With a deposit of $35 and after 12 monthly payments of $30. So although this is $350, in hire purchase we could pay a deposit of $35 first. And then after that, we can do 12 monthly installments of $30. So 30 times 12, 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 3 is 6. We bring a 0. 1 times 0, 0. 1 times 3, 3. We add those, we get 360. So then when we add two of these together, we have 360 plus 35. So that's 593. So altogether we'll pay $395 if we use hire purchase. So the question asks how much would we save if we pay in cash? Well, that would be 395 subtract 350, which would give us 5 take away 0, 5, 9 take away 5, 4, 3 take away 3, 0, $445. It says here, a company employs 20 persons as gardeners and clerks. The mean daily wage of all employees is $22.40. If each of the 12 gardeners is paid $26 per day, then the daily amount paid to each of the 8 clerks is... Okay, so to start us off, we need to figure out the total amount of money paid per day. In order to do this, we have to multiply 22.40 times 20. Under multiple choice conditions, I could look at this as 22.40 times 10, and I have to add that to the same thing, 22.40 times 10. That's the same thing as multiplying it by 20. If you see here, it's like we have 10 of these, then 10 of these, which is the same as having 20 of these. So if I'm multiplying by 10, I just have to move the decimal place here. So it's going to turn to 224.0, which is the same as $224, which is going to be the same over here as well too. Now we could add these together. Now that I add those, I'll have 844. So this represents the total amount paid per day. So the next thing we could do is figure out how much the gardeners make collectively, and then subtract it from there to figure out how much the clerks make. So then for the gardeners, we would say 26 times 12, and we'll multiply. So 2 times 6 is 12. We have 2 here, 1 goes over here. So 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1, 5. Put the 0, 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. So we add these, we're going to get 2. 5 plus 6 is 11. Put the 1 here, put the 1 here. 312. So the gardeners made $312. That means the clerks would have made $448. Take away 312. So that would be 631. So $136 has to be split among 8 clocks. So we have to divide in order to figure that out. So we have 136. So in order to divide, we use the process daddy, mommy, sister, brother. We divide first, then we multiply, then we subtract, then we bring down. So first things first, 8 into 1, we get 0. So that's the division done. So now we multiply. 0 times 8 is 0. So 1 take away 0 is 1. So we just multiply and subtract. Next step is to bring down. So then we'll have the 3 here. 8 into 13 goes once. So we just divide again. 1 times 8 is 8. Once we subtract this, we now bring down. So we bring it down to 6. So 8 into 56 goes 7 times. So 7 times 8 is 56. Okay. So now we subtract again. And now we're left with 17 as our answer. So 17 per person. So therefore, answer is this. So a man's annual salary is $45,000. His tax-free allowances total $13,000. So this part is tax-free. He has to pay a tax of 20% on the taxable income. So in order to find the taxable income, we must take the income and subtract the tax-free one. So once we do that, we're gonna get $32,000. So this part is what's taxable. So therefore, in order to figure out the tax payable, we have to find 20%. So 20 over 100 multiplied by the taxable income, which is 32,000. So 100 goes into itself once, 100 goes into this 320 times. So now we have to multiply 320 by 20, which would be over 1 times 1, which is just 1. So let's multiply that now. So we'll get 0, 2 times 0, 0 times 3, 0. So we bring our 0 here. So 2 times 0 again, 0, 2 times 2, 4, 2 times 3, 6. We add those together, 6,400 would be the tax payable. A salesman sells a car for $10,500. If he is paid a commission of 5% for the first $10,000, so the 5% for first $10,000, 8% on the remainder, the total commission he receives is, so I need to find 5% of 10,000 first. So what's 5% of 10,000? Let's see. So 5 over 100 times 10,000. So the 0 is gone, 0 is gone. I'm left with 5 times 100, which is 500. So this is what is going to be on the first 10,000. So let's see what his remainder is. His remainder is 10,500 minus 10,000. So when we subtract that, we are left with $500. So the extra $500, we now have to find 8% of that. So in order to do that, we say 8 over 100 multiplied by 500 over 1. So 100 in itself goes once. 100 into 500 goes 5 times. So we're left with 8 times 5, which is $40. So now we can add 2 of these up and we're going to get 500, which is equal to $540. So our answer is $540. A man's basic wage for a 40-hour week is $160. He is paid $5 per hour for overtime. If he works 6.5 hours overtime in a certain week, then his wage for that week is, okay, so let's start this off now. So $160 for this 40-hour week. So that's already his base. $160. Now he's paid $5 per hour for overtime. So he works 6.5 hours. Okay, so let's just split this up. So then we could say 6 multiplied by 5 is equal to $30. But then we have to do half an hour. Because remember, we did 6 hours. Now we have to do half an hour. So half an hour would just be half of this $5. So the 0.5 or half of $5 would be $2.50. So together his overtime would be, but if we add that now to his overall base pay, it would be $160 plus the $32.50. So we just fill this up here. So then we'll have 50 cents, and 0 plus 2 is 2, 6 plus 3 is 9, 1 plus nothing is 1. So therefore his pay would be $192.50. So a calculator which is marked at $120 is sold for cash at a 30% discount. So let's just figure out what that discount is. So 120 over 1 multiplied by 30 over 100. So we could say here 10 into 100 goes 10 times, 10 into 30 goes 3 times, 10 into itself goes once, so we left back with 1, and 10 into this goes 12 times. Therefore, 12 times 3 is equal to 36. So this 36 represents the 30% discount. So if we need to figure out how much we actually paid, it's going to be 120 take away 36. So we borrow from this. 10 take away 6 is 4. Come again. So 11 take away 3 is going to give us 8. So $84. So we spent $84 to get the calculator. Now it says how much change would Susan receive if she pays for the calculator with a $100 bill. So a $100 bill, and we're subtracting from that $84. So this is basically gonna give us $16. So $16 was the change. So we have 16 right here, and that's our answer. So it says that Megan normally saves X dollars each month, but in August she saved $4 less than twice her usual amount. So she saved $4 less than twice her usual amount. So her usual amount is X. So what is twice her usual amount? Twice her usual amount would be 2 times X, which is 2X. So this means twice, which is 2, her usual amount. Now the usual amount is represented by the X here. Now it says she saved 4 less than twice her usual amount. So therefore, if we have to find 4 less than this, we would say 2x minus 4. Therefore, our answer is this. So this says if m star n equal this, then 5 star this is equal to. So you see how we have the m here, m star n. That means that this here represents m, the first part, just like the first part here represents m. And the second part, n, is represented by this. But however, as you can see, we have a smaller version in here, so we have to work that out first, which is 5 star 2, and this is not 5 times 2. What this is saying is wherever m is, so in this case m, and wherever n is, that's what we're going to use. So in this case, m is equal to 5 for this particular first one, so we will use 5 into this formula, and n is equal to 2. So that's for the first part. So here now is where we would use the 2. So let's try to use it now. So the square root of m to the power 3, which is 5 to the power 3, minus n squared, which is 2 squared. So I'm just working out this first part here. Let's treat this like a green section. So 5 to the power 3, that means 5 times 5 times 5. So 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 is 125. So that's the square root of 125 minus 2 squared. So 2 squared is the same as 2 times 2. What's 2 times 2? 4. So 125, take away 4, square root 121. Now the square root of 121, or what number times itself gives us 121? That number is 11. So now we can say that here is 11. It's not it. We have to use this question again. Now we say 5 star 11. So the same concept, we're using this again. So this time m is 5 and n is 11. So replace this m here with 5. So it's going to be 5 to the power of 3, which we already know, minus 11 squared, because now 11 is n. So then we'll have the square root of 5 to the power 3, which is 125, take away 11 squared, which is 121. When we subtract that, we get the square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. So it says the trapezium with height h, so we have a height h here, has an area of x squared. So this full area is equal to x squared. So they said the height of the trapezium expressed in terms of x is, no. We know that the area of a trapezium is half a plus b multiplied by height, which is equal to area. So we get this in the front of our formula sheet. Now a plus b represent the parallel lengths, which would be 2 and x minus 4. And the height is the perpendicular height that we have here. So I could say now half multiplied by 2 plus x minus 4. So I got this x minus 4 from here, and I got this 2 from here, multiplied by height, since we have height, and then that's equal to the area, which is x squared. Now they told us they want the height of the trapezium in terms of h. So I need to simplify this now. So half, and then I could say 2 take away 4 is 2. So I could group this together now and say x plus 2 minus 4 multiplied by h is equal to x squared. So now I can simplify that to half x minus 2. Then we would have the height, which is equal to x squared. I need to make h the subject. So in order to make h the subject, I'll do it first to get rid of the half. So the opposite of this half is kind of like we multiplying by 2. Because here having a half is like dividing by 2. So that's why the opposite is multiplying. So once we do that, that will leave us with x minus 2 multiplied by h, which is equal to 2 times x squared, which is just 2x squared. Remember, we still need to get h by itself. So in order to get h by itself, we divide both sides by x minus 2. So that's going to cancel out, and we are left with h is equal to 2x squared over x minus 2. So our answer is this. So with this one here, very simple one, we have 3 minus x minus 2. So when we look at this, we have to treat this kind of like it's a negative 1. Okay, so basically when I say minus 1 times x is going to give me 3 minus x. Then minus 1 times minus 2 is giving me plus 2. Now I could group the like terms. I'm going to have 3 plus 2 minus x. So 3 plus 2 is 5 minus x. Remember, this part has a minus in front of it, as you can see here. So in order to expand this, we have to treat it as if this was a negative 1. So negative 1 times x is negative x. Negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. And that last part is what you have to be careful with. That's the part students mess up with the most. So this here is our answer. So based on the law of indices, once we have the same base and we are multiplying, we could add the powers. So this comes from a to the power of m times a to the power of n is equal to am plus n. Now how does that apply to this? What I'm saying is, because I have the same base, which is 5, I can simplify that and say 5 to the power of n plus 1 plus n plus 2. And that's because they are being multiplied. So now n plus 1 plus n plus 2, I could group the n's, so then it will be n plus 1 plus 2. What is n plus n? It's going to be 2n plus 1 plus 2, which is 3. So answer is this. So for this, we have to solve for y. So the first thing we need to do when we're doing this is expand the brackets. When we expand the brackets, we'll be saying 5 times y and 5 times negative 2 or minus 2. So 5 times y is 5y, and then 5 times minus 2 is minus 10, which is equal to 3 times y, which is 3y. And then after we'll have 3 times 4, which is plus 12. So 3 times 4 is 12. So now we need to get all the y's on one side. So if we bring this over, it's like it's going to turn on negative because we're subtracting 3y from both sides. So then we're left with 5y minus 3y. Take away 10. This cancels, so we're left with 12. 5y take away 3y is 2y minus 10 is equal to 12. Now to get the y by itself, we have to get rid of this 10. So it's like we're adding 10 to both sides. In other words, if you think of this as a minus 10, bringing it over turns it to plus 10 once it passes the equal sign. So then we are left with 2y is equal to 12 plus 10. So what's 12 plus 10? So 2y is equal to 22. Now to get y by itself, we divide both sides by 2. So therefore y is equal to 22 divided by 2, which is 11. This one, it says the vector p take away 2q. So what's p? So p is this. So I could say p minus 2q would be p, which is 3, 7. And I'm going to subtract the 2, and I'll have here minus 2, 5. So let's try to set this up now. So we'll have the 3 here, the 7. Now it's like saying minus 2 times minus 2, which is positive 4, because a negative times a negative is a positive. Then negative 2 times positive 5 is a negative, because a negative times a positive is a negative. So negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. So now we can simplify this. So 3 plus 4 is 7, and 7 take away 10 is negative 3. Therefore, answer is this. So we have a parallelogram here, and we want to find e to g. So e to g would go e to f, then f to g. Now if you look at this, since it's a parallelogram, here is k because here is k. If here come down is m, that means coming down here is also m. So if we're going from E to G, that means we have to go E, F plus FG. So E to F, then F to G. What's E to F? E to F is K. And we have to add that to F to G, which is M. So K plus M is our answer. So in this particular instance, we are saying that 5 times xy is equal to 4 times 10, 20. So if we were to expand this, we would say 5 times x is 5x, which is equal to 4 times 10, which is 40. 4 times 10 gives us 40. And below that, we have 5 times y, which gives us 5y, which is equal to 4 times 20, which is 80. So now I have two separate equations here that I can work out. So 5x is equal to 40. To get x by itself, we divide both sides by 5. So 40 divided by 5 is 8. Then the next one, 5y is equal to 80. We divide both sides by 5. 80 divided by 5 would give us 16. So therefore, our answer is y is 16, x is 8, which would be this right here. So we have a matrix A and we need to find the inverse. In order to find the inverse, the first thing we need to do would be to find the determinant. Now the determinant is going to be 2 times 4 minus 1 times 7. It's always in that order. So 2 times 4 minus 1 times 7. So what's 2 times 4? 2 times 4 is 8. Minus 1 times 7 is 7. So 8 take away 7 is equal to 1. So the determinant of A is equal to 1. The next thing we need is the adjoint of A. The adjoint of A. So in order to do that, we have to take this same expression from A. We're going to swap the 2 and the 4. And then we're going to leave these here, the 7 and 1, but we're going to change the sign. So that's going to turn to negative 1, and this is going to turn to negative 7. So this is the adjoint of A. And once we put them together, we have the inverse. So like this, it's going to be 1 over the determinant, which is 1, multiplied by the adjoint, which is 4, negative 1, negative 7, 2. So our answer is this, which is right here. Since the determinant is 1, 1 divided by 1 is 1. So it's the same as leaving it without having this expression here. So it took a speedboat 9 hours to travel a distance of 1,080 kilometers. 1,080 kilometers. What was its average speed? So average speed is equal to the overall distance divided by the overall time. So the good thing is we have this in kilometers already, and we have this in hours, which are the units for this, so we don't have to convert anything. So what's the overall distance? 1,080, which must be divided by the overall time, which is 9 hours. So 9 could go into itself once. 9 can go into 108 12 times. So that means it could go into 1,080 120 times. So we'll have 120 over 1, which is 120. So our answer is 120. So we have the perimeter of a trapezium here. So the perimeter of a trapezium, and we need to represent it in centimeters. So perimeter is the distance around, so we have to add up all these distances around this shape. So I'll have 0.41, then we have 0.21, we have 0.18, 0.12. Now we have to add up all of these. So 1 plus 1 is 2 plus 8, 10, 12. So we put a 1 over here now. 4 plus 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 0.92 meters. Now 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So if we want to convert from meters to centimeters, we have to multiply. Therefore we say 0.92 times 100. Now since we don't have a calculator, all we're gonna do is move the zeros, because remember, multiplying by tens, hundreds, and those powers, we just move the decimal point to right. So in this case it's gonna be 92. We had 2 moves for the 2 zeros, so it's gonna be 92 centimeters. So answer is 92. So it says if the circumference of the circle is 15, so that means the full distance around here is 15 centimeters. Then the length of the minor arc AB, so we want to know the length of this minor arc, which would be this section here. So if we want to know the length of the minor arc, remember we have 120 degrees is what it's worth. It's worth 120 degrees, which is a small portion of the circle. Now, what proportion is it of the circle? It's going to be 120 over the total degrees a circle can have, which is 360. And then we multiply that by 15. So in this case, our answer is this. So if we wanted to figure out what the length is of the minor arc, we would work this out. It says an aircraft leaves A at 1600 hours and arrives at B, let's say this is B, at 1930 hours. So the average speed was 550 kilometers per hour. So A and B are the same time zone. The distance from A to B in kilometers would be, so we know the time gap between this would be what? So from 16 to 1930, that would be 3 hours and 30 minutes. So in terms of hours, 30 minutes would represent what? A half. So we had about 3.5 hours traveling. Now for every hour, we did 550 kilometers. So we did 550 per hour. So how much did we do? We did 3.5 hours. So 1 hour, after 1 hour, we would cover 550. So in 3 hours, 3 hours would be 550 times 3. So 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. We put the 5 here, put the 1 here. 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1, 16. 1,650 in 3 hours. So that already eliminates these two possible answers here. Now we need to figure out for the other half. So half of 550. So another way of thinking of 550 is dividing it by 2. So let's see, 550 divided by 2. So 2 into 5 goes twice, remainder 1. So 2 into 15 now goes 7 times, remainder 1. So 2 into 10 goes 5 times. It's going to be 275. Okay. So now to figure out the full 3.5 hours, we need to add these two. So 1650 plus 275. So that's going to be 0 plus 5 is 5. 5 plus 7, 12. 6, 7, 8 plus 1, 9. Bring down that 1925. So answer is this, kilometers. So it says if the major sector is 515 centimeters squared, so the major sector is this, then the area of the circle is, so we know that here is 60 degrees, and if I was to continue this line, you know that here now could represent another 60 and another 60 here. Why? All three of these should add up to 180. Now if we put it on the next side as well, you're gonna have 60 here, 60 here, and 60 here. So if you look at it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces that add up to 515. So the area inside of these here add up to 515. But we split them into even pieces. So to figure out how much 1 is, we could say 515 divided by 5. So we know the process: daddy, mommy, sister, brother. So 5 into 5 goes once. So 1 times 5 is 5. So we just divided and multiplied. Now we have to subtract. So 5 take away 5 is 0. The next step, we bring down the 1. So 5 into 1 goes 0. So 0 times 5 is also 0. So we are left with 1 take away 0, which is 1. We just subtracted. So the next thing is bring down. So 5 into 15 goes 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. So when we subtract, we're going to get 0. So that's no remainder. So we are left with 103. So therefore, 103 represents the area of one slice. So that's per 60-degree sector. So how many of these pieces do we have all together? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if 1 is what, 103, then we can say 103 times 6. So 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 0 is 0, add 1. And then 6 times 1 is 6. So answer is 618. So this one says the volume of the cuboid is 320 centimeters cube. So the volume of V is equal to 320. And the height is h. As you can see here, the height is h. If the length of the square base of the cuboid is 8 centimeters, what is the value of h? So they're saying that this is a square, even though it does not look like one, it is a square. So 8 centimeters here. Now, volume is equal to cross-sectional area times the perpendicular height, which represents the volume for a prism. So our cross-sectional area in this case would be equal to this here. So how do we find the area of this? This is going to be equal to 8 times 8. Now 8 times 8 is 64 centimeters squared. So now we can substitute. So since our volume is 320, we could say 320 is equal to the cross-sectional area, which is 64, multiplied by the height. Now to figure out the height, we just have to divide both sides by 64. Basically, the height is equal to 320 divided by 64. So I could put here height is equal to 320 divided by 64. Now looking at this, I can see that there's a common number that could go into both of these. I would say 2. So 2 into 64 is 32. 2 could go into 64 32 times. 2 can go into 320 160 times. Now 4 could go into 160 40 times. And 4 could go into 32 8 times. So now I have 40 over 8. So 40 over 8 is the same as 40 divided by 8, which is equal to 5. Therefore, our answer is equal to 5 centimeters. So if we were to back check this, it would be like saying 64, which is a cross-sectional area, multiplied by the height, which is 5 from what we got. So 64 times 5, we have 5 times 4, which is 20. 6 times 5 is 30 plus 2, 320. So we know our answer is correct. So they're telling us the area of a triangle is 60 centimeters squared and its height is 10 centimeters. What is the length of the base of the triangle in centimeters? So let's draw a triangle here just for perspective. So we are saying that the area in here is equal to 60 centimeters squared. Now it says the height is 10 centimeters. We need to figure out what this is. What is the base? Now the area of a triangle is equal to half times the base times the height. So right here is what we're trying to find, the base. So I can replace this with base. So then I could say I know what the area is, I know what the height is, which is 10. Now the area is 60, which is now equal to half times the base, which is what we're looking for, multiplied by the height, which is 10. So therefore we have 60 is equal to, I could arrange this to say half times 10 times b. Now what is half of 10? Half of 10 is 5, which is equal to b. So if I divide both sides by 5, I can figure out what b is. So in this case, 60 divided by 5 is 12. Therefore, the base is 12 centimeters. So our answer is 12. So just to back check, you can try area being equal to half times the base, which is 12 from what we worked out, times 10. So half of 12 is 6. So then 6 times 10 is 60. Remember, it's always important to back check your work when you're doing it on a multiple choice exam. So it says a square has the same perimeter as a rectangle whose sides are 9 centimeters and 15 centimeters in length. So let's say we have a rectangle. The length is 15 centimeters and the side is 9 centimeters wide. So if they have the same perimeter, so the perimeter of the rectangle, so we add up all the sides, so 15 plus 15 plus 9 plus 9. So 15 plus 15 is 30 and 9 plus 9 is 18. So therefore it's 30 plus 18, which is 48 centimeters. So that's the perimeter of the rectangle. Now they're saying that it has the same perimeter as a square. So what do we know about squares? Squares, all sides are equal. So if all sides are equal, we are saying that this 48 centimeters has to be spread equally around this square. So since we have 4 sides, that means one side must be 48 divided by 4. What's 48 divided by 4? 12 centimeters. So that means each side here is 12 centimeters. So if you add these back up, you will get 48. So therefore, our answer for this is 12. So it says the lower limit of the median class is, so first of all, the median is like the value in the center of the data once we organize from lowest to highest. As you can see here, it's already organized from lowest to highest. We do not know the total frequency, so we need to figure that out first, figure out where the middle would lie. So let's start adding these up. So I'll have 29, 47, 24, 39, and 11. So if I add these up, get 30, put 0 here, 3 over here, 3, 4, 5, so 150. Total is 150. So if we want the median, we try to find halfway between this, because these are already organized from lowest to highest. So I can say that would be roughly about 150 divided by 2, which would land me around the 75th person. So where would the 75th person fall? So we have from this side going over here 29 and 47. So 29 and then 29 plus 47. Let's say 29 plus 47. So 9 plus 7 is 16. Put the 1 here. So 4 plus 2, 6, 7. So we got 76. So up to here we have the 76th person. 29 people would be in here. Then this rest 47 7 would make this section here have a total of 76 people, because this part here is cumulative. So 76 people are inside here. Now we are looking for the 75th person. Where does the 75th person lie? That means the 75th person must lie between this class interval here, 31 to 40. So the question wants us to know the lower limit of this median class. This here is the median class, because as I said, the 75th person falls somewhere in here, because I know that because this goes up to at least 76. So the 75th person must be somewhere inside here. We definitely passed the 29 mark, so 29 and above. So we are saying that inside this class would have 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. The 35th person inside here would have the 38th person, the 31st person, straight up to the 76th person. Okay, and that's not to be confused with the actual class numbers. So lower limit would be this 31. 40 would have been the upper limit, but since we want the lower limit, it's 31. So this says how many children have a mass of at most 50 kilograms. So we're looking at most, so nothing more than 50. So we have masses here going from 21 to 30, 31 to 40. These are still under 50, 41 to 50, which includes the 50 that we are looking at. So therefore, we don't want this 51 to 60, neither 61 to 70. So our cutoff is right here. We don't need these here. So that means that in order to figure out 50 or less, or in other words, 50 at most, we would say 29 plus 47 plus 24. So if I add 4 plus 7 plus 9, when I add those together, I'll get 20. So put the 0 here, put the 2 here. So then we have now 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 8. 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 2 is 10. So 100. So we have 100 children that have a mass of at most 50 kilograms. So the model score. What is a model score? So when we're talking about a model score, we're talking about a score that has the most students in this case, or in general, it's usually the highest frequency. So right here, the largest number of students matches in this section here. But remember, we're looking for the model score, right? So the score that has the most would be 8. 8 has the largest number of students, which would be 12 students, which is not to be confused with this 12 here. We're talking about the score. So 8 is the highest score that we see the most. 8 is the score that we see the most. We want the lower quartile of the marks scored by the 200 students. So if we have 200 students, in here would have been the median. So right here, we would have figured out the median through this, which is the middle, but we want the lower quartile. So what is the lower quartile? The lower quartile, we will find that between the center of 0 and the median, because it's a lower quarter of the data. So if this here is the median, which represents 100, the center of 0 to 100 must be what? 50. So we need to figure out where 50 is. So based on this, we're going like 0, something, 40, something, 80. So what are we jumping in? 20. So this is 20, 40. Here would be 60, 80, 100, and so forth. So if this is 40, this is 60, we expect that 50 would be the middle of these two. So if I go center, I'll end up here. So this is about where 50 is, and then I'll just come straight down to find what that lower quartile is. So this is the lower quartile. If we wanted to do median, we would have come here and then come straight down. But we want the lower quartile, which is right here, and that's 30. So our answer is 30. So it says here, a child is selected at random. What is the probability that the child is more than 4 years old? So we want people who are more than 4. So who would be more than 4? More than 4, we are talking about 5, 6, 7, 8. So when we are talking about probability, we need to figure out the total number of students we have first. Then we figure out how many people are more than 4 years. Okay, so the probability of an event A is equal to of possible desirable outcomes over the number of total possibilities. So we need to figure out what the total possibilities would be in this case. So we have 3 here, then this goes to 4, this is 2, this is 5, this is 1. So 3 plus 4 plus 2 plus 5 plus 1 would give us, this is 7 plus 7 plus 1, which is 15. So our total possible outcomes would be 15. Now for those who would be more than 4, it would be 4, 2, 5 plus 1, which would be 4 plus 2 plus 5 plus 1, which is 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 1, 11 plus 1, 12. So that would be 12. Now, we said that is the number of desirable outcomes, which would be 12 over the total number, which is 15. But you see, this is a trick with this question here. They made sure that they did not make that answer so obvious, so you would think, maybe I'm wrong. But no, a number can go into both of these here. What number can go into 12 and 15? 3. So 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So our answer is 4 over 5. So it says that 600 students sit an examination. So we have 600 students. The probability of a randomly selected student passing the exam is 4 to 5. How many students are expected to fail? So if we could figure out the proportion that is expected to pass, that must mean the others are expected to fail. So I can say 600 over 1 times the proportion that will pass, which is 4 to 5. Now I could say 5 could go into itself once, 5 could go into 60. I'm just looking at the 60 12 times. So that will leave me with 120 times 4. Alright, so follow that. 120 times 4. These are the people expected to pass. So 4 times 0, 0. 4 times 2, 8. 4 times 1, 4. So 480 people are expected to pass. So to fail, that must mean 600 take away 480 is expected to fail. So if we work this out, we will get 120. Alright, so our answer is 120. So it says, which of the following functions represents the equation of a straight line? So equation of a straight line is represented as y is equal to mx plus c. So if you look at this here, we can see that there's only one that has this kind of format, mx plus c, which is this here. Now this one here has an x squared, so we know that wasn't it. That's a quadratic, likewise with this, and this also does not fall in this form here. So our answer is y equal 2x plus 3. So the question says the point where a linear function crosses the vertical axis. What is that? So we have two lines. Remember, we have two lines. The x-axis, which is the horizontal axis, just like the horizon on the beach. And then we have the y-axis, which will be the vertical line. So if we have a random line that's a linear function and it passes through these two lines, we're talking about the vertical axis now, which is the y-axis. It crosses right here, okay? If we was to draw another line and it goes this way, look where it crosses. It crosses right here on the vertical axis. So we can't say it's always negative, neither can we say it's always positive, because look, we have two situations where up here would have been positive and down here negative. So definitely wouldn't be this. But guess what? We call this thing the y-intercept. So our answer is the y-intercept. If it was gonna cross the horizontal axis like it did here. So it says the arrow diagram below describes the relation. So we have a 2 going to the 8, a 2 going to the 10. Let's see our options. So it says x is a multiple of y. First of all, these x values are less than y, so there's no way they could be multiples. It's no way that these could be multiples. So this is definitely out. Now, if you read the top one, it says y is less than x. Y is less than x. Y is not less than x. Incorrect. So the two options that we have is x is a factor of y. Now, because these are bigger than x, we cannot say y is a factor of x. So that already eliminates that. So our only option is that x is a factor of y. Now, if you check it out, you can see that 2 matches to 8 and 10, and 2 is a factor of 8 as well as a factor of 10. So the factors of 8 would be 1, 2, 4, and 8. The factors of 9 would be 1, 3, 9. The factors of 10 would be 1, 2, and 5. As you can see, we have our numbers here that we have 2, 4, 3, and 2. So the 2 matches to the 10, just like it does with the 8. So 2 matches to the 10 and the 8. Then we have the 3, which matches with the 9. And we have the 2 alone that matches with the 10. Also remember, 10 is a factor of itself. But all we needed to explain and prove these points were these numbers that you see here that are ticked. So just remember that the answer here, x is a factor of y. So in order to find the y-intercept of a straight line, we must have it in the form y is equal to mx plus c, where m represents the gradient and c represents the y-intercept. Now, as you can see with this equation that we have here, y is not the subject of the formula. In fact, the subject of the formula is 2y. So in order to make y the subject of the formula, we have to get rid of this 2. And since it's multiplying to the y, that means we divide both sides by 2. So we'll be left with y is equal to negative 3x over 2. So I'm going to split it and then have minus 8 over 2. Now if we go back to this here, we would notice that we can do it by comparison. So as you can see here, m represents the gradient. So right here is a gradient, which is m, and the y-intercept c is represented by this. So we have negative 8 over 2. So what is negative 8 over 2? Negative 8 divided by 2 is actually equal to negative 4. So that means my y-intercept is equal to negative 4. So for this particular question here, we want to figure out the value of when h has an input of 4. So in other words, this x represents the input, which is 4. So everywhere we see x, we replace it with 4 for this function. So then we'll have 3 multiplied by 4, as you can see here, because of the 3x, take away 2 over 5. What's 3 times 4? 3 times 4 is 12. Take away 2 over 5. 12 take away 2 is 10 divided by 5. So 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. So our answer is 2. This was some light work. This one says, what is the value of f inverse 1 if the function f is given as this? So we're saying that the function fx is equal to 5 minus 2x. This is the same thing as how it's written here. Now there are two ways to solve this. The first way of doing it is we can just find the inverse of this function. So what we would say is let y equal fx. So then we'll end up saying y is equal to 5 minus 2x. So we're trying to reverse the process to find out what would be the inverse of this function. So the inverse of this function, we need to make x the subject of the formula. So in that case, we would say get rid of the 5 first, subtract 5 from both sides. So we'll have y minus 5 is equal to minus 2x. Now how do we get x by itself? We divide both sides by minus 2. So now we can say that the inverse is equal to y minus 5 over negative 2, which is the same as us writing it like this, x minus 5 over negative 2. Just replacing back this y with the input x now. Now we need to insert 1 into this formula. So when we insert 1 into this formula, we'll get 1 take away 5, because we're substituting this x with 1 over negative 2. So that's going to give us 1 take away 5, which is negative 4 over negative 2. So negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. So then our answer is this. If you inserted this 2 into this equation here, where it says 5 minus 2x, we say 2 times 2 is going to give us 5 take away 4, which is 1, which is our answer from here. So we know we're correct. Another way of writing this is like this. We could say that fx is equal to 1. So this here would give us the value of x, and it's another way of writing fx is equal to 1. So if we know that, we can just say, okay, if fx is equal to this and fx is equal to 1, we put the two equations together. So then we'll have 1 from this, which is fx is equal to 5 minus 2x. Now we try to get x by itself, bring the 5 over, 1 minus 5 equal to minus 2x. 1 minus 5 is minus 4, which is equal to minus 2x. Divide both sides by negative 2. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is equal to 2. So x is equal to 2. So that's another way of working this out. So for this one, we said the values of x at the points where y equal 4x minus x squared intersects the x-axis are. So it's going to intersect with the x-axis when y is equal to 0. So therefore, we could say 0 would be equal to 4x minus x squared. So now we need to figure out the values of x when this is equal to 0. So in order to do that, I can factorize. So I'll say 0 is equal to, what's the common factor between these two here? X. So then we have x open brackets 4 minus x. So when I walk this back, I'll get the same thing. X times 4 is 4x, and x times minus x is minus x squared. Now that I have this, I can split it. So I'll have this 0 is equal to x. And I'll also have, which is one of our answers. So now that eliminates this question. All of the others have x equals 0. And the last one is 0 is equal to 4 minus x. So now just to make the x positive, I just bring this one over, add x to both sides. So then I'll have x is equal to 4. So my two options would be this and this. So we know that this is minus, so that's wrong. This has 2, that's wrong. So my answer is this. I also got it plotted on a graph so you can see it. So here's the x-axis. And as you can see, the value here is 4 and the value here is 0. So these are the same things as us finding the roots of this quadratic here, which is 4x minus x squared. A line L is perpendicular to the line y is equal to 2 over 5x minus 8. So what is the gradient of the line L? So first things first, we need to figure out what the gradient of this line is. So remember, in linear equations, y equal mx plus c. So m represents this. And what does m represent? the gradient, and then this part is just the y-intercept. This only exists when y is the subject of the formula. In other words, y is by itself here. So if the gradient of this particular line that we have now is 2 over 5, the perpendicular gradient would be the reciprocal of this, which is, instead of having 2 over 5, we'd have 5 over 2. But here's one more catch. We have to multiply it by -1. So once we multiply it by -1, we'll get the perpendicular gradient. So 5 times -1 is -5 over 2 times 1, which is 2. So -5 over 2 is the same thing as having this written like this. So our answer is -5 over 2. Alright, so in the diagram, the translation by which AB is mapped onto A prime, B prime is represented by, so we're moving from A to A prime, B to B prime. So let's try it now. So we go, here's like saying 2, and for A we went to 4. So from here now, on the y-axis we had 5, and we went from 5 to 6. So if you look at this, going from A to A prime, that means we had to move 2 steps to the right, which means it's positive, and then 1 step up. So 2 to the right and 1 up. So 2 to the right is positive and 1 up is also positive. So that would be 2, 1. So the translation here is 2, 1. If you look at it from here, same perspective, 5 to 7, which would be the x component, which represents the first value here. So to go from 5 to 7, if we add a 2, is going to be 5, 6, 7. And then with the 7 here now to the 8, it goes up 1. That's how we got that. So it says, which of the following statements best describes the relationship between P and Q? So P and Q, these are what you call alternate angles. So the angle here, once these are parallel lines, these two angles would be the exact same. Therefore, P is equal to Q. Okay, these are called alternate angles. So say for instance, we had an angle here that was 60. Angle inside here would also be 60 degrees. So it says a ship sailed 80 kilometers due east from A. Okay, so let's try to sketch it. And now we're going due east. So if this is north, east would be this way. So due east for 8 kilometers. And it's east from A to B. So here is B. Now the next thing, it says it then sailed 6 kilometers due north to C. So it went up now 6 kilometers to a point C. Okay, which of the following diagrams best represents the path of the ship? So as you can see, the closest to my one is this right here. You see, in a polygon, angle A is equal to X, and angle A and angle B are supplementary. When we're talking about supplementary angles, we're saying that they add up to 180 degrees. So just to draw it from a point of reference, let's say we have this here. This is a straight line. So this straight line is equal to 180 degrees, right? We have an angle here that is equal to X, and we can call this angle A. Now this other angle here is angle B. So to figure out what angle B is, we must say 180 minus X would give us this. So for instance, if the angle here was 60, to figure out this angle here, we would have to say 180 minus 60, which is 120. Once we put 120 here, both of these supposed to add back up to 180. So our answer is 180 degrees, take away X degrees. So we have this line y equal X. They say we want to rotate it anti-clockwise. So anti-clockwise meaning we're going in this direction to 90 degrees. So if we form a 90 degree angle to that's how we are rotating it. So if we rotate it, this is where it's going to be. This is how it's going to look. So this line here is called the y equal negative X line. So just for reference, if we had a particular point here, which was -3, the value here that's corresponding to this would be +3. Now let's go on the next side. If we had a +3 here on the x-axis, the corresponding value here would be -3. So if you notice, the values are always the same magnitude, but they change in sign. So this one here was -3, 3. This one here was 3, -3. As you can see, they keep changing sign. So it's 3, -3, -3, 3. So that's how it got the name y is equal to -x. So this is our answer for that. So it says in the triangle, LM and MN are equal. So we have these here that are equal, LM and MN. So they're equal, and the circle is centered at O. So this is basically a isosceles triangle. What is the size of angle alpha? So in circle theorem, once we have an angle sitting on the diameter in a semicircle, so this here is the diameter, the angle here is always 90 degrees. So if here is 90 degrees, and we know that these two lines are the same length, that must mean that alpha here and this angle here, they both are the same. So these both angles would be basically 180 take away 90, which is 90 degrees. So that's the difference between these two angles. But they need to be spread equally since they're the same. So 90 divided by 2 is equal to 45 degrees. So that must means that here is 45 degrees and here is also 45 degrees. So therefore our answer is 45 degrees. That's the size of angle alpha. So for this one it says if y is 12 meters from z. So 12 meters from z. So this is y and this is z. They're 12 meters apart. Then the base xy in meters is, so we need to figure out what this base here is. So xy is the base. Okay, so this here is using trigonometry. We know that here is 35, so because of the alternate angle situation, the angle here, which is 35, would be the same here. So therefore, here is 35, since these two lines here are parallel, and they cut right here. This line cuts this right here and forms 35. That means down here must be 35. So now we have a triangle that we're working with, which is right angled. Here is 12 meters and here is 35 degrees. We are trying to find what here is. So based on triangle, this 12 is opposite the angle 35. So if it's opposite the angle 35, we can say that 12 represents the opposite. Now, we know what this is. This is the hypotenuse. So if this is a hypotenuse, that means that this last one here must be the adjacent. So, in the trigonometric ratios, we use something called SOHCAHTOA to remember the trig ratios. So the question is whether we're going to be using sine, cosine, or tangent. Now, what do we have here? The opposite, and we're trying to find the adjacent. Now, if you look at this, OH, AH, OA, the only one with opposite and adjacent is the one with the t, which is tan. So therefore we're saying that tan angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. So in this case, what is the angle? The angle is tan 35, which is equal to the opposite, in other words 12 over a. So a is what we're trying to find. But as you can see here, if we try to cross multiply, we'll end up with tan 35 times a, which is a tan 35 equal to 12. Now to get a by itself, I have to divide both sides by tan 35, which would leave me with a is equal to 12 over tan 35. But when you look at the answer, that answer is not here. So that means we're not using this angle 35. Remember, we did not have the opposite hypotenuse, neither adjacent hypotenuse to work this out. So none of these here gonna work. So that leaves us with one option, which is this. But now to show you how that works, what that means is we have to use our angle 55. So right here is the angle 55. How do I know it's 55? Because the 55 plus 35 plus 90 all add up to 180. So there's a method to this madness. Just check it out here now. So now that we are looking at this triangle, the opposite has changed. So our focus is now 55 degrees. So the length down here is the opposite. But guess what? Now our 12 becomes what? Since this is still the hypotenuse, what does this become? This here becomes the adjacent. Okay, the adjacent. So we're gonna still use this tan formula, but this time we're gonna say tan 55 is equal to the opposite over the adjacent, which is what? So tan 55 is equal to opposite, which you don't know, over 12. Then we do the same process, we cross multiply. So then we will say tan 55 times 12. So we'll have 12 times tan 55, which is equal to our opposite. And as you can see, this is our answer here. So with this question, you have to be very, very careful which option you select. So I did this intentionally so you can see that you have to be very, very careful with just selecting an answer when it comes to these questions. So this says which trigonometric ratio is equal to 4 over 8. So let's write down the trigonometric ratios. So we have SOHCAHTOA. So what does this mean? So sine, opposite hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, tan, opposite adjacent. So these are things that are represented on your formula sheet. So sine is basically equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Cosine angle is equal to a over h, which is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and tan angle is equal to over a, which is opposite over adjacent. Now we want the ratio 4 over 8. So 4 over 8. So let's look for where 4 is. So 4 is this and 8 is this. Now relative to everything, what does 8 represent? So it's the line across from the right angle. So this is the hypotenuse. In other words, this is the one that represents the h. So we already know that tan is out of the picture because tan does not use hypotenuse. And there's no way this hypotenuse can change. This will always be the hypotenuse. So this narrows us down to cosine x and sine x. So clearly the angle that we are looking at is from the perspective of x. So I'm going to look at x. So x is my focus point. I'm not studying y because x is my focus point. So now opposite of x is 4. So here represents the opposite, and the 8 is obviously the hypotenuse. So what uses opposite and hypotenuse? Sine. So I'm basically saying that sine x, whichever this angle is, sine x has to be equal to the opposite, which is 4 over the hypotenuse. So answer is sine x.